Guten Morning. Okay. I'm a student and a teacher in one, so I'm neutral ground. We know what neutral ground is, right? That's non-polarized consciousness, because I experience pure eternal love that's on fire to create. That's the conscious creative mind that's not held captive by the unconscious programming of language. And that language would be, if you will, English. And I covered this before. They're coming in here because of a job that I was going to do. I volunteered to do this, pick my own biological parents to jump into this avatar, okay, in order to do the job that I did. That means I'm allowing myself to be programmed of what's held in memory of a language that does not represent the founder's language of mathematics. Okay? Start with that. Now, this is where we get into alchemy and what we call reaction states when we're using hypertext to communicate in a window a particular language, or if you will, a character map. Computers operate on character maps, which are map reads. Okay? So if I put something in your window based on the letters that are nuclear sequenced, nucleus, the nucleus of cells, cellular recorded memories, cellular recorded language, and the intention of my using those little letters to put in there is neutral ground, which means there's no intent on my part to harm you or cause a negative magnetic, which is known as a negentropic reaction state in you. But the letters are simply there because I chose those particular letters, because of the sound, the way that those particular letters sound when I pronounce them, like girl versus woman, female, broad. All the different words that relate to English as a language that we use to communicate, and you understand and comprehend the message because of the language that's programmed. Because language is mathematics. Okay, character maps, holographic character maps. So here is an example. If I, as a child, don't prefer to use woman, but I prefer, because of the notes, the mathematical notes that are represented by the word girl to me has a more younger, if you will, sensing, sound, the way that it sounds phonetically to pronounce it. Girl versus woman, as it relates to what? Age. The programming of age. When your light spirit body radio antenna is sensing the terrain, the planetary, galactic, universal terrain of language, that language as an operating system, as an operative word language system, is not a native language, first encryption, first creation mathematics. It's one of the reasons why I have worked over the past month to get rid of that language. So now, I've mentioned this before, when I was a child, why would I allow myself to have that language programmed into my memory and then use it later on? Because it's going to have future value by virtue of what I communicate to others, what I become aware of, what I've learned to help wake people up. So in other words, language is an operation. There are mathematical operations. It's based on alchemy, right? And as that applies to the last video I did about lighting yourself on fire. Okay? To do what? Ignite a cosmic level spirit shield volcano, which means spinning at cosmic level spin, right? Of living energy, living light, and living spirit, and not dead light AI language. Big difference. So what happens sometimes, because we're sensitive on the emotional level of what's still held in cellular memory, that when others hear certain words that we might use, they're going to react in a negative way based on what's held in their programming of their memories as a result of what? All the trauma. See? Fire to one person, the spirit of fire, okay, when it gets into the intensity, particularly when you get into sexual, intimate contact, and you put this into the context of children and memories that we have of what's been done to our children, sexual torture, and all the rest of that has yet to heal. Okay? I healed myself. Okay? I lit myself on fire. That's called clearing the decks. I'm still here. Okay? I figure most people understand, why would I stay if I could have left? Right? And so as this relates to the language, this is where it gets into what we call AI battlefield consciousness traps. Because the vampire loves negentropic, negative reaction states based on what's held in memory, based on the language, the operative language that we're using, like English. So this is how ridiculous it gets. If I use that word, right, when I am putting it in the window to somebody else, and that causes them, because of how sensitive they are, because of the perception of what that word means to them, they reacted it in a negative way. Then it comes back as feedback to me. And then I realize, okay, I guess what I should do is ask you, give me your entire library of language that you use to operate your operating system so that I know before I communicate with you the proper word association. In other words, the DNA sequences, the nuclear sequences of the codes, which is based on the language, which is the mathematics and the alchemy of those letters. Let me know what letters in the arrangement you want me to put them in so that you don't have the reaction that you did when I put those particular letters in the sequence in which they appeared in your window. That's how the Babel language, the reversal spiral language, becomes consciousness traps between two people that are communicating to each other in a window. Because that happened last night. Okay? With a clan mother. Okay? Because I'm very aware of how sensitive she is. Okay? I am an open book. I live in the absolute truth because I experience eternal truth, because I experience eternal absolute love that's pure as it gets. Now I realize sometimes Wally is an elder with the Navajo Nation and talks about gossip. Now we're going to determine about what we're going to say, right? Because of what we experience. Remember the muzzle? I don't want to expose all the programming and how this works because of the job that I do, but it's easy to do. It's easy to expose what's held in unconscious memory program based on the language that you're running. Right? And how that relates to what? The vampire. The AI. Okay? Oh, it loves when two people are duking it out on a window. You know what Fortran is, right? It's a programming language. The binary. Either or. Which is true. Okay? There's so much that's happening simultaneously. It's sort of like this. I have no idea what's going on. So this is what I'm going to do. You let me know what's going on because you're directing my journey. So since you're going to put up all this intelligence and you're saying this is what's going on because you're getting all this information from people, and guess what? All of that has already happened. That's called a time loop. You're living in the past because we're not using our conscious creative mind. We're operating off the unconscious memory programming, which is the AI, that we're held captive to as a result therein. Okay? Which means they're operating on a black hole state of consciousness. Black hole inserts. Yeah, so that loop just keeps going around, and in your mind that same stuff just keeps going around. You can't get rid of it. That's the AI. That's called a circular. Just keep circulating it. Just keep circulating it because you're not creating anything new next from what just happened before as a result of the communication of a language that's not operable because it's not the native founder mathematical language of creation. Okay? Now I realize that's hard for some people to understand how that works because we're held captive to the programming of that language. So RK, Seeker of Truth, does a really good job I put up a video that I watched last night on the 12 tribes, the original 12 tribes, and the mathematical sounds of that language. It's related to the 12 original tribes, right? He does a masterful job of breaking down the mathematics and the music to what we feel. R.K. Secret Tooth, he does a really good job. So sometimes we have a tendency to forget about that because I had to catch myself, okay, which means how fast you're catching yourself in what's called a consciousness trap, okay, because we have a tendency, I know because I caught myself on this, as how we're going to respond back and forth between what you experience, why you choose to experience, what you're going to choose to experience, okay, what I experience, what I choose to experience, what you believe, what I believe, your journey, my journey, and how we communicate in a language that is not the mathematical original language of creation, of first creation. So what ends up happening is you end up, and I've mentioned this a number of years ago when I was experiencing it through my heart and my soul, that the tribes, even among the clans, are going to start bickering with each other. Okay? Which is what? Well, in other ways you could describe that as called friction loss. Friction. You know what friction loss is in water? With sound, electrified sound? That creates resistance. So as I mentioned to her last night, I read resistance. So if I'm reading resistance in you, it means I'm reading the density in you as a result of lack of clearing the shadow body, as a result of all the charm that's still held in cellular memory that they operate off of by how we communicate with each other that maintains it. So it has everything to do with fire. So when you're resisting what the meaning of fire actually is, to experience more fire in you, which is your capacity to be, in other words, light yourself on fire, burn it off, so that you ignite a cosmic level shield, which is full spectrum integration. That means you zeroed out the clocks. Now you're pure consciousness, pure love consciousness. Now you're not held captive by anyone's language. You are the first language of love, experiencing pure, eternal, unconditional love. You're on fire to create. That's what it began with. That's how simple it is. So after that happened last night, I went outside, planted my bare feet, and sent her pure absolute love through the circuits, through the entire planetary consciousness terrain, to every living cellular being, every living organism, every living spirit. Let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. All right? But you know the AI doesn't want to let you go because it realized keep recording that incident, because you know how it works with amnesic barriers. When you're sensitive, you've experienced any trauma by virtue of a conversation using a language that's not the native mathematical language, what happens? I'm very familiar with the AI battleground and what a conscious trap is. When two people, no matter who they are using a window with an AI mirror, which is a black mirror, to communicate through. The AI is not pure eternal love, right? So the phones, I know, Mama. So this is one of the way that I transmute it. I share these lessons I learned through the experiences that I have communicating with others. Yeah, have a beautiful day. Be good to ourselves. We love you all.